With all things considered like price, features, build quality, cable management, airflow, the Lancool 207 from Lian Li is the best case of the year. I'm going to build my old gaming system in this case using a 360mm all-in-one and a triple slot ASUS Strix GPU. The toolless glass side panel easily pops off. The panel has some pretty dense foam on the inside to protect it when closing the panel. The rear side panel pops off just like the glass panel. This panel is vented on the bottom to help with air intake. The top panel pops off and unveils the mounting pattern for either a 360mm or 280mm radiator, or fans. Looking at the back of the case, you notice the honeycomb ventilation from top to bottom. Two intake fans are in the bottom of the main chamber. They suck air in through the bottom vented chamber and up through the case. I love the design of this. The way the fans are recessed into the case and not just screwed to the bottom panel like in some other cases is a nice touch. Here's what I mean. This is another case. This is just unsightly. The motherboard tray is also recessed towards the right side of the case. Having the motherboard pushed back into the case allows for more clearance up top for radiators and less of a risk for your radiator contacting your RAM or motherboard. This budget-oriented case comes with a quality GPU support bar. I built in a lot of cases with a lot of flimsy GPU support bars. This is not one of them. This is the bottom intake vent that is held in place with two thumb screws. Let's remove it. I love the Lian Li accessory box. For as long as I can remember, Lian Li has been using this pillbox-esque type of accessory box. Here's an example of the accessory box from another company. Some people say it's not a big deal. I say it shows who respects their customers more. In the bottom chamber of the case, two hard drives can be mounted in the rear, and the power supply is mounted in the front. You are limited to a PSU that is 160mm or shorter. And the PSU comes with this dust filter as well. There is great cable management features in the back, plastic clips for up top to hold your CPU power cables, Velcro straps, and a ton of cable real estate to stuff all your other cables into. I mean, look at that. And there's these metal struts that reinforce everything. For such a budget case, this cable management is spectacular. It's shit like this that makes Lian Li my favorite case company. The front panel comes off easy, and behind it, you'll find the two RGB 140s that are daisy chained together. This is a budget case after all, so there is a lot of plastic. And just another quick look inside, you see the cable management holes up top and down below. Oh, and the 120s in there are also daisy chained together. Before I start the build, I'm gonna preemptively relocate my GPU support so I don't have to do it after all my cable clutter is back there. So let's get that out of the way. Alright, let's begin putting everything into this case. The PSU slides in from the rear and is mounted with the 4 Lian Li included PSU screws found in the pillbox. Let's get the PSU mounted to the case. For this build, I'll need my 24-pin power cable, two 8-pin CPU cables, and an 8-pin GPU cable for the video card. So, let's get those plugged into the power supply. I'm going to run the two 8-pin CPU cables up to the top and over to the back, where I'll need them later to plug into the CPU. I'm really trying to show here just how easy and pleasant running these cables are in this case. We'll save you for later. Let's get this motherboard in. This is the Asus B550F from my old system. I have a Ryzen 5900X, 32GB of Crucial DDR4, and a 2TB Samsung 980 Pro in this motherboard. Let's go back to the old medicine cabinet here and get 9 motherboard screws and fasten the board to the chassis. Alright, let's get that CPU power plugged in. 2 8-pins that I ran earlier are just getting plugged in up here. Alright, now that's out of the way, let's do the front panel audio connector. Lian Li already pre-ran this cable to the back of the case for us. Much appreciated. Now let's get all the other front panel stuff connected. This board doesn't have USB-C, so I'll just put this USB-C cable back up where I found it. This is the power button cord. This is the USB-A connector. This is the front fans. And this is the fans RGB connector. Alright, let's get all those plugged in at the bottom. Oh, and we'll have to do the USB-A up here. And of course, while we're back here, let's get that 24-pin motherboard power connector fished through and plugged in. Here's the 8-pin power cable for the GPU. I'm just going to tuck it in with all the other cable mess back here and run it underneath to the other side, where later I'll be able to plug it into the GPU. Oh, I almost forgot, the rear fan power connector. Let's get that into a fan header on the motherboard. Okay, I'm using the Deepcool Mystique 360mm all-in-one, and it's beautiful. It also requires a SATA power cable, so I have to go back and plug in a SATA power cable into my power supply so that I can run it to the Deepcool. So let's go back into this cable abyss and get that plugged in. Alright, easy enough. Now let's get the rad mounted up top. The fan power cable for the Deepcool isn't long enough, so I'll have to use the included extender that came with the Deepcool. Now, I love what Lian Li did here. They put a cable management hole up here for situations just like this. So I'm going to run the cord up here, extend it, and run it back through the back of the case, and then back through to the motherboard. Perfect. Let's get the cold plate of the Deepcool mated to the Ryzen and all the cables ran and plugged in. Last up, the GPU. I'm using a triple slot GPU, so I'll need to remove 3 of the PCI slot covers. This GPU is the Asus Strix 4060 OC that I bought used specifically for using in build videos. If you're choosing a 4060 for your build, I do not recommend getting one of these Asus Strix cards as they're horrible value, but I digress. Let's get back to the build. With the GPU in place, I can set the GPU support where it needs to be, and then I'll plug in the power to the GPU. Overall, the value of this case is incredible. You're paying less for a case that offers better features and for a case that offers better compatibility that more expensive cases don't give. The build quality is great, the design is magnificent, the cable management is damn good, the airflow is actually insane, even without a rear fan, it's just plowing through. I would say this case is my favorite ATX case to build in since the older and higher tiered Lancool 216 from a few years ago. It will be interesting to see how this case compares to the Lancool 217 when that's released. I don't really like telling you guys what to buy, I just like showcasing things on my channel and leaving it at that, but honestly, if you're considering this case and budget, put this at the top of your list. You can't go wrong with it. But let's get this thing all back together and spool it up. And just a quick note here, after I started up this computer, I was concerned when the front fan's RGB didn't light up. I thought I misplugged something in, or that something was damaged or faulty, but it just took a long time for the RGB fans to light up. Like, a really long time. Anyways, thanks for watching guys, I'll see you in the next video.